the serious side effects from Botox. But I have not seen that elsewhere in the literature. I've been reading the literature extensively. So perhaps I am misreading the literature or missing what's going on in the field, because I seem to be the odd doctor out in this field reporting serious side effects from patients, emails, telephone calls, and so forth. Now, amidst all of that, there are some people who say Botox works for them, but their voice goes out for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and they get 2 weeks or a week or 3 weeks or 4 months or 3 months. And
we know Viagra works also for people. I mean, the interesting thing in your field is that when they report an outcome, like the patient got a voice improvement, their voice improved. Very seldomly I've noticed, and maybe you can comment about this, why doesn't the doctor tell how long was the improvement for? Was it for a matter of seconds, minutes, hours, or was the improvement for days, weeks, or months? Well, why don't they say that when they get an outcome? Why don't they indicate how long was the improvement? Because it's not enough simply to have a, quote, improvement for a matter of minutes or hours.
Well, let me give you a case which we both know of, and it's surfacing in USA Today. We're talking about popular information by the top press and also the New York Times. We're not talking about organizations and newspapers that are
or
off the center or out of balance. We're talking about leading newspapers. In the USA Today, there was an article about the positives of Botox for spasmodic dysphonia, strangled voices. And the quote was by a gentleman by the name of McAllister, who is the director of the National Spasmodic Dysphonic Association. That association gets generous donations of money from Allergan, the maker of Botox. But the article said, and they used the term, Botox is easing voices, these strangled voices.
Well, actually, McAllister said that Botox is the cat's meow.
And he also said it's a godsend.
But what does that mean when somebody says it's the cat's meow?
This organization is a 501c.
Well, I talked with McAllister, and he directly...
A 501c means they have to
be
objective, and it's nonprofit.
It's not an advocacy group. It's supposed to be disseminating objective information. I talked with McAllister, and he indicated to me unequivocally that his organization does not endorse, support, or promote the use of any one treatment.
Do you want me to laugh now or later?
No, I mean, I'd like you to comment about McAllister making that statement.
He's a very fine gentleman. He's a very nice guy. I've spoken with him, and I've written to him asking why they don't report cures of spasmodic dysphonia, which I do for over 30 years. McAllister is not of the view that cures are applicable for the NSDA, National Spasmodic Dysphonic Association. In fact, they sent a high official from that organization to my office not too long back saying, don't report cures and we will feature you in our newsletter. But I indicated I do have cures. Why do they fear cures? Well, they also have another position. They're looking to unmask, I'm quoting, unmask the neurological condition of SD to a cure.
I'm glad you brought that up for just a second, because I would like to draw people to the attention. I don't know if we can zoom in on this here, this particular article, perhaps not, but this is a definitive study that was done in 1960 by 3 researchers called Robe, Brumlick, and Moore. 90 years prior to that, for 90 years, the profession of otolaryngology believed that spasmodic dysphonia, the strangled voice, was due to was due to psychiatric problems. And then in this article, these gentlemen came up with a new theory that it was due to central nervous system dysfunction. And I'm going to read you the
Were they all men in this study?
No, they weren't. No, they were women.
Okay.
In fact, the principal author is Evelyn Robe, 2 gentlemen, Joel Brumlick and Paul Moore, all of whom I believe were at the Northwestern University Medical Center. And this is their bottom line of their article, without going into the detail. Number 1, spastic dysphonia, or also spasmodic dysphonia, has a neurological basis. That was their bottom line basis, that it's due to the central nervous system dysfunction. And then 2 sentences later, 1 sentence later, it indicates It cannot be stated, and I'm quoting, that the neurologic or encephalographic abnormalities are related to the voice disturbances as a cause and effect. It cannot be related as a cause and effect. In other words, what they're saying is that they're identifying some kind of neurological disturbance, but they can't say that it's causing spasmodic dysphonia.
What is the neurological disturbance that they're talking about? Talking about the spiking in one of the lobes of the brain.
I don't even think they're referring to the basal ganglia in this study.
No, they're talking of the brain.
And I want to point out to those who don't know that the use of encephalography was a huge fad in the early 1960s. In other words, everybody was hooking themselves up, and you know that these machines, I don't know if you remember what they look like, but they basically put a bunch of electrodes on somebody's scalp, and then they get a brainwave pattern. And they were measuring brainwaves for all kinds of things, for hypnosis, for sleep, for epilepsy, you name it, they measured the brainwaves for
He did it for stutters, you know.
Oh, I'm
To
sure.
show that stutters.
Well, it was very popular.
Well, he did it for a long period of time to show that stutterers were neurologically impaired.
Yeah. Well, what they're showing, because you happen to see a printout on an electroencephalograph that shows spiking, it doesn't mean that the spiking is due to a neurological disturbance or dysfunction.
What can it be due to?
It can be due to just straining. Like, for instance, if you lean the wrong way and you begin to start shaking on your arm, you're neurologically spiking, but that doesn't mean you have a neurological disturbance.
If you were standing on one foot, this is hypothetical, and you stood on that one foot for half an hour, would you show spiking? Could you show spiking in the brain?
Absolutely. So the inference that comes from electroencephalographs, you cannot take as proof that there's a permanent neurological disability that a person has, and yet the inference clearly from Rowe, Brumlick, and Moore, which really changed the entire direction of your field of treating spasmodic dysphonia, was that this is now a neurological condition.
Prior to that, it was
It was a psychiatric disturbance.
due to who made it?
This was your fella
Traub in
Traub in
1871.
1871.
Called strangled voice, nervous hoarseness.
Yeah.
So they switched to 1960 after 90 years, working with patients and telling them the problem was in their mind, which they couldn't find. And the literature in the psychiatric journals is filled with jargon that you could not believe, and the expressions of why these patients were talking with a strangled voice was not getting to the real cause, but they didn't know what the cause is. How many theories are there today, Dr. Curtis? Do you want me to mention them, or would you like to?
You're talking about in the field of there's
as to why strangled voice is occurring.
Look, they have theories right now that are almost extraterrestrial. They have, you've got viral theories. Did you ever hear that one? This is a virus. You catch this, it's a flu or something. It just stays in the vocal cords. I mean, they got biochemical theories right now. I mean, molecular
Chemical
theories.
Imbalance in the Brain.
Chemical imbalance in the brain.
By Christy Ludlow of the NIH.
She firmly believes that the future of the treatment of spasmodic dysphonia is in molecular biology.
Well, there are various other theories, but there's only one problem, aside from all the theories. Folks, they don't have a single cure in the medical community since Straub first described the condition as nervous hoarseness, now known as spasmodic dysphonia, the strangled voice, for over 132 years. Not one single cure that I read about.
Do you think that that's by design? That I'm going to just ask your opinion just to hazard this. Does the medical profession seek a cure, or do they avoid cures?
No, I think they seek a cure. I think they're desperately seeking a cure. I think they have a very simple problem, and I believe it's the paradigm. They're on the wrong road. They're looking to unmask the neurological cause today in the medical community for SD, strangled voice. It is not a neurological problem. A study by Rowe, Brumlick, and Moore in 1960 veered to the left.
To the neurological.
Right. Yeah, to the neurological.
From the psychiatric.
From the psychiatric.
Why are you so convinced that they're looking for a cure? Because you were told that cures of spasmodic dysphonia are not appropriate for the membership of the American Hearing and Speech Association. Why do you believe that the medical profession is seeking a cure for spasmodic dysphonia? I spoke with Dr. Norman Hokikian.
He was just quoted in USA Today.
Oh, he was actually quoted in that article.
Yes.
As a matter of fact.
Yes.
And another interesting aside from that is that a patient that you and Dr. Hokikian share a patient together.
Mm-hmm. Kim Engstrom.
Kim Engstrom
Who's
was
on
treated
this
by
program.
both you and Dr. Hokikian.
And do you know the outcome of Botox with Kim Engstrom?
Well, I believe that she lost her voice.
Right. He gave her 2 Botox shots. My position is they're well-intentioned. That's what I'm saying. Dr. Curtis thinks possibly other. But the situation is that after she had 2 Botox shots, she had bowed vocal cords, from what I understand, and no voice. She worked with me for a month, came out from the Midwest, and stayed with me for a month, and was kind of skeptical about what was going on. And I don't blame her, because everything in the medical literature says there are no cures. So here's a Dr. Mort Cooper reporting ongoing cures for 30 years. He is either a crackpot or he's onto something that nobody else is onto. I'm the only one reporting cures in the world. We only have a few more minutes, so I'll sum it up. And she got 10% of her voice in the office after a month of intensive therapy. Intensive, 5.5 days, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. She went back. We corresponded by mail and by phone, and she is cured of the condition. She went back to Dr. Hokikian. He's a fine doctor, and he wanted to give her a 3rd Botox shot to treat the neurological problem, and he acknowledged to her that I had treated the functional problem and gotten her voice back, but he believes there's a substrata, the cause being neurological, but she didn't want a 3rd shot. She was perfectly happy. The point is that they are looking to a neurological base for this condition, and the Rowe, Brumlick, and Moore began it in 1960.
Well, I mean, your assumption that the medical
and Cohegan
profession
was involved in the USA story, saying how the people with spasmodic dysphonia are happy campers emotionally.
Well, he
and
said more than that. He actually said that they're now treating, he's successfully treating abductor spasmodic dysphonia with Botox, but that's another show.
That's going to be another show.
Yeah, but let me just leave you with this. You believe that the medical profession is seeking a cure.
They're seeking a cure, a medical cure.
But I think they're seeking medical treatment, not a cure, because medical treatment is an ongoing annuity for the pharmaceutical companies for life. A cure means the pharmaceutical companies are put out of business.
That's correct. But I believe that the paradigm that they're operating from began in 1960, and it was there when Botox came to the fore with Mitchell Bryn, who was a neurologist who brought it to the fore.
Well, that was like 27 years later.
Yeah, but that's what it takes.
Yeah.
It takes years before it comes to the fore. And the position is that here is a study, and other studies have been done, and they think that the problem is a basal ganglia dysfunction. They can't find it, that it's a molecular biological problem. They can't find it, that it is a chemical imbalance in the brain, that it's reflux acid causing it, and so forth and so on. But they don't report one single cure in over 132 years. That is what I'm getting to, and the patients are not given choice to decide they want non-medical treatment rather than medical care that has no cure, and non-medical, called direct voice rehabilitation, what I'm doing, has ongoing cures for 30 years. So there's an issue at stake here. But I'm saying that they do have a paradigm, and that paradigm is leading them to believe it must be a neurological problem, must be a medical problem, it must be a dystonia, but I don't find it so.
Yeah, and of course when Kim Engstrom came back to Dr. Hokikian, he still wanted to inject her with the 3rd shot, even though her voice was entirely normal. That sort of tells the whole story. The bottom line, at the National Institutes of Health, you make the call.
Thank you. Good night.
About paradigms. They're interested in the bottom line. What do they care? The only thing that they care about the paradigm is